Welcome to Friends in Fiction, 5 best-selling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristen Harmel, Christy Woodson Harvey, Patty Callahan Henry, and Mary Alice Monroe are 5 longtime friends with more than 80 published books to their credit. In 2020, they created Friends in Fiction to provide author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, and to highlight independent bookstores. These friends discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for Friends in Fiction. Welcome to our show. We've got so much to look forward to tonight. I am Mary Kay Andrews. I'm your host tonight.
I'm Kristen Harmel.
I am Patty Callahan Henry.
I am Christy Woodson Harvey.
And that was my husband you just heard pouring me some more.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Can he stop by over here?
Yeah. I don't think he can make it to Birmingham. All right. So this is Friends in Fiction. 5 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories who support indie bookstores. Tonight, you'll figure out why I need more wine because our guest is Karin Slaughter. We're going to talk about her new book, False Witness, which was released earlier this year, which, of course, was an instant New York Times bestseller. And in our continuing support, I still can't say that word, continuing support of indie bookstores. Tonight, our bookstore of the week is Foxtail Bookshop, located right here near me in Atlanta, Georgia. It's actually in Woodstock, and we're going to be telling you about that in a little bit. And also, am I talking about Caroline's Cakes tonight?
Looks like it.
I think I am. I don't even have any cake right now. It's so sad. Okay, Friends in Fiction has partnered with Caroline's Cakes for the Take a Bite Out of Summer campaign, which runs through the end of this month, which is coming up, and it culminates in a grand prize awarded just in time for Labor Day weekend. One lucky winner will receive a Caroline's Cakes tote bag stuffed with totally good swag from Caroline's and Friends in Fiction's 10 books. That's 10 books.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
I know. It's from each of us, plus another book of each host author's choice, and Caroline's Cake Bites in the winner's flavor of choice. So enter tonight for a chance to win. Also tonight, we do have some exciting news because Patty has something to show us.
Y'all, my publishing house has designed and made the most gorgeous trailer for Once Upon a Wardrobe. And I want everyone here, before I even put it on social media, I want everyone here to see it first.
Very cool.
I swooned when I saw it. It was like seeing George and Meg's walk off the page. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready? All right, show it, Alan.
Where do you think Narnia came from? I simply must find out.
Discover how the world of a boy in failing health and his logic-driven sister are changed in Once Upon a Wardrobe. From the best-selling author of Becoming Mrs. Lewis comes another beautiful story inspired by C.S. Lewis. George wants to find out where Narnia came from. His big sister Megs will do everything in her power to answer her younger brother's question. The gift she thought she was giving to her brother, the story behind Narnia, turns out to be his gift to her instead. Hope. You've read the story set in Narnia. Now enjoy the story behind the stories. Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan. On sale October 19.
That was great. It was like a movie trailer.
I know. When I first saw it, anyway, there's so much to tell you about this book, and it's out in 7 weeks. I can't believe that we're finally coming up on it. But I think for now, that trailer tells you everything you need to get started. But in working, I have one more thing I want to tell you, because in working on this book, I also worked with Joy Davidman's son, C.S. Lewis's stepson, Douglas Gresham.
So cool.
I know. And he read the book and he steered me when I got off course. And he's a beautiful supporter of the story. And y'all, he has agreed to do a virtual and exclusive The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe book club. Yes, he's going to join us for a Zoom book club. And he said he would answer questions. He's agreed to walk through the wardrobe with us. So
I love that.
if you pre-order the book from anywhere, all you can do, you can attend this book club. We will be live on Sunday afternoon, September 19th, with Douglas and with David Downing, who is also a Narnia expert. But Douglas will tell us stories about living with C.S. Lewis. He will answer questions, and he will tell us the hilarious story about the first time he met the man he calls Jack, and he thought he would be a knight from Narnia instead of the common man he was living in a house in the woods.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So you can find all the information on my website and on social media. And Kristen, I saw your blurb up there.
I know, that was so
trailer.
cool.
That's great. I loved that.
I know. But also, you have some book news this week.
I do. And I just have to say, I'm so excited about your book and about the awesome opportunity to virtually meet C.S. Lewis's stepson. I think it's going to be amazing. Like what a once in a lifetime opportunity for anybody who's even a little bit interested in Narnia. I mean, it's just, it's legendary. It's amazing. But yeah, I wanted to just say that my first ever mass market paperback is out. So that's that little like $9.99 that $9.99 size that you can find in like drugstores or wherever. And it's The Winemaker's Wife, which was my 2019 novel. But it came out in paperback the week everything shut down. So this book totally missed its chance in normal paperback. It came out March 17th, 2020. It was like everything was canceled. The book didn't make it to shelves, all that. So this is like its second chance. It's everywhere, everywhere you can find mass market paperbacks. Kroger, Walmart, Sam's, the airport, the drugstore, anywhere you usually pick up these kind of books. So it's a cheap opportunity to pick up The Winemaker's Wife out this week.
Oh, please don't use the word cheap.
I'm just a cheap hussy for this book.
No, we call that budget. It's budget.
I think they're so cute. I love them. I love little mass
I like
markets.
it too. I know. It fits in my purse, which is nice.
Yeah.
I know. And so, every week we partner with Parade Magazine Online. We stream from their Facebook page and we have an original essay in their online magazine. This week, Christy wrote about the joy of buying school supplies. And you can find that essay linked on our Facebook page and in our Instagram bio. But meanwhile, Christy, could you tell us about your shopping exposition?
Yes, I can. While I am taking this off, because I'm reading that it's making a scratching sound. I'm so sorry. And I wasn't supposed to have it on anyway, which is why I was laughing when we came on. But yes, this week, is that better?
Yes.
This week I wrote about what I think should be a national holiday, which is back to school shopping. It is one of my favorite things in the entire world. I have loved it from the time I was little. I don't know that Will loves it as much as I do, but like he pretends for me, which I think is like really kind. That he's like, yay! And really, I think he's like, I would rather be swimming or, whatever. But he pretends and we get all the things. And so I wrote a little bit about that this week. And it was just super, super fun. And so I wanted to ask you guys tonight really quickly. I think one of the reasons that I like back to school shopping is because it just feels like a fresh start.
Yeah.
And so are there any like rituals or times of year? Is there anything that happens in your life that feels like a fresh start to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what? I think I make a conscious effort to try to make a new start on my birthday every year. Like I kind of say that, this is a new opportunity. And like, I kind of try to think about things I feel like I've been doing wrong or weight I've been carrying on my shoulders or like anger I've been carrying that I shouldn't. And I kind of try to let it go with the previous year. I want to say that I really liked about your essay, Christy, that it wasn't just a fresh start for Will. It was a fresh start for you also. The school shopping. I liked how you tied that in.
Thank you.
For me, buying school supplies always felt so hopeful, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe this time I'll get it right. Maybe this time I'll stay organized. It's like I buy a new notebook for every book I write, right?
Yeah.
And so when I do that, I think this time maybe I'll get it right.
Yep.
I haven't done it yet, but maybe I will.
Yeah. Well, for me, school supplies, I have grandchildren now in school and their mom buys their school supplies. But for me, school supplies equals office supplies.
Yeah.
And so every time I venture into a store this time of year, I load up my cart with my favorite black and white composition books and my fine tip felt pens. They have to be black. Do you guys agree that we can only write in black, or are you okay with other colors?
No, I write a lot in blue. I know.
I like other colors. I like pink and purple, and
of course you do,
right? I really do. Orange.
You probably have sparkly pens or something.
No, they have to be felt tip. I'm with you. Like I'm a real right now. Sharpie pens are kind of my.
Oh, I love Sharpie pens. Yep.
Sharpie pens. We would love to be sponsored by.
Okay, that was not whoring yourself out at all, Christy. Not at all. Don't worry.
Always be closing. Always be closing.
And the other thing I like to buy is an office calendar, because every year I tell myself, this is the year I'm going to get organized. This is the year I'll make it happen. So maybe when Karin comes on, maybe we'll ask her if she likes office supplies. God knows what she likes.
I do want to know, though.
I know. We'll ask her that. Okay, so now let's talk about our incredible guest, Karin Slaughter, who's cooling her heels in the green room, even as we speak. She is the New York Times best-selling author of 21 novels, including Pretty Girls, The Good Daughter, Pieces of Her, and the Grant County and Will Trent books.
Her novels have been published in 120 countries. Wow. With more than 35 million copies sold worldwide. Karin was nominated for a prestigious Edgar Award for her novel Coptown. Another of her standalone novels, Pieces of Her, is in development with Netflix.
Karin is also the founder of the Save the Libraries Project, which is a nonprofit that works to support libraries and has raised more than $300,000 for the DeKalb County Library Foundation. Am I going to say that right?
Okay. That's right. So Karin lives in Atlanta, and her new book, False Witness, shippers. It's so terrifying and good. Mary Kay, we don't know what you're doing, but Karin, it's cracking me up. Karin's new book, False Witness, came out in July. It follows Lee Collier, a defense attorney at a prominent law firm in Atlanta, as secrets from her past threaten to catch up with her and ruin the perfect new life a perfect life is always the beginning of the end.
Right. You're in trouble when your life gets to be perfect.
When your life is going the way you want it, there's something around the corner. But the perfect life she has built for herself and her daughter, Karin. We can't wait to see you.
Oh!
What is even happening here?
Okay. Welcome, Karin. I need to explain to you all that I turned my camera off because I poured a whole glass of wine on my judge's barrister's wig, which cost $12. So that happened. Karin, welcome.
Thank you.
We are a little bit afraid that you're here, but in light of your new book, False Witness, I thought we would play a little game I call False Witness.
Okay.
Or in simpler terms, liar, liar, pants on fire.
All right.
So
go ahead, Judge Winehead.
Excuse me, I'm in charge of this court. Now, by the power invested in me by the sovereign state of Friends and Fiction, we intend to put you on the hot seat witness stand and question you about your checkered past. Now, I'm going to be the judge, of course, because I'm judgy like that. Kristen, Christy, and Patty will be your jury, and they will determine whether or not you are a liar. And just to make things a little more complicated and edgy, because things are edgy, my wig is not.
Well, we're the pirate jury.
Yeah, we're
pirate jury, right? We have appointed. I've appointed a special prosecutor for this cross-examination. Alan, will you please bring in our district attorney?
Oh, dear. I'm in good hands.
I
Lisa?
was not told that I had to wear a hat.
Sorry, Lisa.
No one told me anything either.
I don't have a hat.
We don't need
you're
one.
The prosecutor.
You need to be serious, so it's good that you don't have one.
Yeah,
right. That and so that is why
so bad. It's itching. Ugh.
Yeah,
okay.
It takes a special personality to stand up to someone like Karin. So we invited totally impartial New York Times bestselling thriller writer Lisa Unger to join us again tonight. The last time Lisa was here.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Last time Lisa was here, we talked about her novel Confessions on the 745. But tonight, it's Karin's turn to take the stand. Lisa, please proceed.
Okay. Hi, Karin.
Hello, special prosecutrix.
Yes. Okay, all right. Okay, I'm ready. Miss Slaughter, first off, the burning question of the night is that your real name? I mean, isn't it a little bit too perfect that somebody who writes books that are often, somewhat grisly, somewhat murdery would have the last name Slaughter?
Just a minute. Let me refer to my notes. Yes.
Yes.
Liar.
Liar!
What?
I'll allow it for the time being.
Okay.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, wait.
No, you're stepping all over our lines. Just wait.
Okay. Isn't it true that during
Miss Slaughter,
isn't it true that during college you worked at Disney World as the operator engineer for the Pirates of the Caribbean experience ride? Is that true? Did you do that?
Let me look at my calendar. On those dates, I was dropping out of college. My lawyer has advised me not to admit anything regarding the deaths that occurred on that day.
The pirate community takes serious offense to that.
Is there a verdict?
seriously offensive.
Is there a verdict delivered on that? Is there? Or do I just keep going?
We'll table that for now.
Okay.
Can I get the woke pirates?
Go back. Let's talk about Miss Slaughter. Let's talk about your past involvement in a criminal operation working as an alleged exterminator for an alleged drug ring. Did you ever, in fact, kill a single bug as a part of that job?
No, there wasn't even exterminating fluid in the pump. It was water. And I know that because I tasted it there.
That explains
That's
a
exactly
lot.
what I was going to ask. How did you know it was water?
It was hot.
All right. Well, I don't. Hearing no objections, Madam District Attorney, I'll let you proceed.
Okay.
My wig's
Miss
crooked.
Slaughter, there have also been allegations that you run a cat rescue operation out of the slaughterhouse, your sprawling mansion in a fenced in-town compound, which neighbors have come to refer to as the litter box. Is that true?
I refuse to answer on the grounds that my cats have all declared themselves as sovereign citizens and do not acknowledge the authority of this court.
How can they not?
This court has the authority.
Parlay. Isn't that piratey?
Parlay. That's
sounds
right. That's what you
piratey.
say when you're a pirate.
Parlay.
That's piratey.
I
Okay.
don't know about that.
Piratey.
Yeah.
Okay. Miss Slaughter, back to your criminal past. Do you now or have you ever illegally operated a forklift without a commercial driver's license?
Okay.
Wait, is the judge drinking on the job? What's
It seems
happening
like
here?
I not only don't have a hat, I also don't have a drink. So
Well, Lisa,
I
that
am
was
ill prepared for this event.
That was short. That was your own that's a
Short-sightedness.
judgment call.
yeah.
You're right. You're right.
That's a personal problem.
No, it's true.
Meg
Okay.
says our whole courtroom is out of order.
I don't feel like Karen ever answers the question.
He hasn't.
She did not.
She didn't.
Well, you see, the pallet needed to be moved, and I was willing to get on the forklift and figure it out. That's what you do.
So you like
That's what
heavy
life is all
equipment.
about. Is yes, if you have never operated heavy equipment before, but something needs to be moved, and a forklift is there, it's what any red-blooded American would do. And if you don't believe in that, you don't believe in God or the Constitution.
Amen.
I mean, you can't argue with that.
I mean, I have to say, as a jury, I'm just going to say I agree.
I'm just going to say R.
That too. Okay.
Nice one. Miss Slaughter, one last question. Is it true that you've written a part loosely based on your own life in the Netflix series Pieces of Her that will be portrayed by Dakota Fanning?
I need to consult with my attorney before I answer that. Excuse me one moment, please. I'd like to invoke my Fourth Amendment right to search and seizure. So, Kathy, would you please come and search and seizure me?
Karen, I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
There you go.
Thank God.
Order in the court. Jury, what say you about this defendant's testimony?
Liar. Fiction
She does
writer,
have a-
liar.
Liar.
I feel like that graphic was already
and the cat.
created.
The citizens add some credibility, I actually have to say.
All right,
Yeah.
y'all.
All
that
right.
judge, now the wig is soaked with Chardonnay. That's not good. Okay, everybody. Lisa, thank you so much. I know there were storms
Lisa.
going on down there in St. Pete and all the things. And Karen was probably putting some hoodoo on you. I just want to tell folks that we are all looking forward to your new book, which will be out October 5th, The Last Girl Ghosted.
Oh,
Can't wait
Oh,
to
I
see it. There it
love
is. That is a
Great
stunning cover, I gotta say.
That's awesome.
Anyway, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for
buddy.
having
And we'll
Thanks,
see.
Lisa.
Hope to see you
So good to
soon.
see you,
I'm so
Lisa.
sorry,
Good to
Lisa.
see you.
Lisa.
Sorry.
Okay, now my hair looks great.
Kristen and I are like kind of just content with our pirate hat situation.
I was going to say, I just texted. Do I need to put my pirate hat on?
No, you do you, boo. You do you. Okay. Now that the fun and games, are sort of over, let's get serious. Karen, can we get you to give us the elevator pitch for False Witness?
Well, I feel like people have already bought it, so I don't have to really pitch it.
Humor us.
It's about trauma. It's about trauma. Something really bad happens, and then we catch up with the people this bad thing happened to 20 years later. And then another bad thing happens, and they're like, it's the bad thing again.
Okay.
That's what you want to tell us.
All right. So to get a little bit more in depth about the bad thing, I know that the two sisters in the novel are survivors of sexual abuse, which you portray pretty graphically in the novel. Can you talk a little bit about why this is important to you to approach so honestly and head on in your writing?
Well, first, I love your chili. But
that's Hormel, not Harmel.
Oh.
Oh my god, I totally didn't.
I'm talking about. Yeah,
I was like,
I'm
chili.
lost. I'm
Wouldn't it
lost.
be awesome if I were the heir to the chili fortune?
Well, you wouldn't be here. That's for damn sure.
Wearing that pirate hat. No, you wouldn't.
From us, from France. So I don't write graphically about the sexual abuse. I write about the fallout from it. I guess if I'm going to talk about sexual abuse, I should take this off. I made a decision a long time ago with my first book that I was going to write realistically about violence against women because it's not something that I was seeing as a reader unless it was from a man's perspective. And the man's perspective was always if a woman is raped or assaulted, the magic potion to heal her is for a really good guy to make love to her and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And that's really not how it works.
No.
And I bring a personal perspective to violence against women because when I was growing up, my grandmother was being violently abused by my grandfather.
Oh, wow.
And, like all good Southern girls, our family would go to church and then we'd go to my grandma's for Sunday dinner. And sometimes my grandmother would have a black eye or a cut lip or a broken bone. And my uncles would tease her about being clumsy. And as I got older, I thought, nobody's that clumsy. My grandfather's beating the hell out of her. And they're making light of it because it's really horrible and they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so I thought, looking at that, us making light of it or not acknowledging it only protected my grandfather. It never, ever helped my grandmother. So I decided in my books to write about it for what it is. And as I continued writing, it became more important because I would have women say to me, I experienced violence. I was never able to articulate what it was right for people to understand because that's the part that fades to black or, it's made titillating somehow or sexualized in a really gross way. And I wanted to show it for what it is so you understand. It's not sexy. It's not something any sane person would wish upon themselves. It's not bondage and S&M. It's not rough sex. It's violence. And so that's why I chose to write about it. And also just being really conscious. These are real people that this happens to every minute of the day. Every minute of the day, this kind of crime happens. And I know Kathy's, much older than me, but maybe some of you guys remember the Long Island Lolita story with Amy Fisher. This story, the part that takes place in the past is like 3 or 4 years on from that. And Amy Fisher was a teenage girl who was having sex with a guy I think he was in his late 30s, Joey Buttafuoco, which is statutory rape.
Yep.
And then eventually he sex trafficked her. And, she did a horrible thing. She wanted to murder this man's wife. But when this all came out, it was sort of weird how she stopped being a girl and she was a woman. And it really, and it's Long Island Lolita in that really disgusting sense where, this poor guy, he has no control. He was seduced by her. And, it's just this kind of disgusting sexualization of young girls. I mean, Amy Fisher is a white girl, but particularly young Black girls or girls of color, this happens to a lot where they get really sexualized at a young age. And I don't know if you guys have talked to like a 13, 14, 16-year-old girl lately. They're really stupid. They're not emotionally developed. They don't understand relationships. They don't understand power dynamics. And so that's what I wanted to talk a little about is that whole Nabokov, I'm just a poor guy, you seduce me is bullshit. It's
Right.
bullshit. And we need to remember that when we hear these stories, that, you know, these are girls. They're not women. It's not sex. It's rape. It's abuse.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting words to that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Wow, Karin, that's powerful. I have chills thinking about it, especially since it can get romanticized, which is even worse than excusing it is romanticizing it.
Oh my God.
So,
yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about your writing process and how it differed for you because you wrote this book during the pandemic. So I know you're a homebody anyway, but was it different for you writing during the pandemic? And is it just me? It felt like this one was closer to the real life Atlanta that you live in than some of your other.
It is. And, you know, Kathy, you remember when you were driving to St. Simon, we were talking and you're like, oh, I finished my book early for the first time. And I was like, well, fuck you. Because it was really hard. I thought it would be, I mean, did you guys think, wow, okay, well, we're not traveling, we're not doing events. It's going to be so much easier to write. But just like the sheer horror at the number of people dying or who are sick and who have long COVID or who lost their jobs or their businesses or all of that was so stressful. And then this weird politicization of everything. Virus don't care. You know, it's like, they don't care if you're a communist or you're, you know, Egyptian or whatever, doesn't care. And so it was just so hard to focus on writing. But for the first time in my life, I was late. I've always delivered on time. I mean, I'm very, very conscientious about that because I know that and you guys know this, if you don't do your job, you're screwing over so many people in your publishing house. And they're like, oh, that's okay. But it's like, you know, jacketing and, you know, and I'm really conscious because my first edition is always in the Netherlands that I'm screwing over my Dutch translator, who's a wonderful woman, you know, by pushing her schedule because she has other things to do other than wait for me to finish this freaking book. So, you know, I got to the point where I said to my editor, you know, I see why some authors who I love just deliver crap books, and I'm not going to do that. I would rather not write a book this year, particularly with this book, because I really love the characters and story. I was like, I'm not going to deliver a bad book. I'm just not going to do it. And so they gave me a little extra time. Honestly, I think they could like print it 2 weeks before it prints. It's just a lie. They need that long. But so I got it done, but it was really difficult to write for a lot of reasons. But, you know, it's a very emotional book. A lot of the suspense comes from the emotion of the characters. And that's very hard for me to write because I get so immersed in their lives and their feelings and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's really draining for me. But I'm really proud it came out that way, but also very angry at Kathy that she beat her deadline.
Well, you know, the thing is, didn't you have family members who were sick?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, my sister got COVID.
Oh, wow.
It was so new that when she went to the hospital, they literally like put her in a room and they pushed a rolling table toward her that had a thermometer on it and the blood pressure cuff. And they're like, put these on. They didn't want to go near her.
Wow.
And she ended up going home because they were so freaked out. But she had 10 days just on the floor. Sick.
Gosh.
Yeah. And it was very scary. And of course, you know, no one could go help her because they were scared, especially me. I'm such a delicate flower. And also I'm the youngest, so it's not really my job to take care of her.
Yeah, everyone takes care of you. That's what life is about.
Yeah. I mean, it's like nature. Then my dad had some health problems. And
right. I know that you were taking care of family members and all I was doing was sitting up and writing in bed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And drinking.
And yelling at us.
And yelling at us, right?
Yelling at them like, come.
Shaming us.
Yeah, shaming.
Did you write this morning? She would text us. And if we didn't. But I felt, Karin, it was harder to write, even though there was more space. So that's what was fascinating was, and I started and stopped so many things. Like, oh, I think I'll write about this. No, I think I'll write about this. No, I think I'll write about this. But once I did figure out what to write, then then it was like this still point in the middle of the chaos, which is, but this is closer to your real life in Atlanta, isn't it? This book here.
I think, well, it's not in a part of town I live. It's more like the ghetto area where Kathy is.
Okay.
Okay, there were some parts that were closer to where you and I live. I don't want to get too specific, but I will tell you, I did a book club at Ansley Golf Club last night. And one of your fans was there, and she was asking me she was telling me how much she loved your book. And I said, well, watch tonight. And she was saying, asking about COVID. And I said, well, Karin will be on the show tonight. And I said, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, one of the bodies in that book is found in the lake in the Ansley Golf Club. Isn't that right?
No, Brookhaven Golf Club.
Is there a Brookhaven Golf Club?
Yeah.
Yes.
Way to do a close read, Kathy.
It's someplace I can't afford to live, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, once she spilled the Chardonnay on her wig, it all went downhill.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's weird because we have a lot of golf clubs in Atlanta, like Cherokee and Druid Hills and Ansley and Brookhaven, and they all have like these really distinct personalities. And so I was talking to a person who's a big golfer and has played at all these clubs. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's where the douchebags are. This is definitely where your guy would live. And so his name is Kevin. So it's his fault if you really love that club. But that's like a crazy neighborhood, too, because it's Justin Bieber lived there. And, you know, a lot of rap people live there and hip hop right by these Miffies and Buffies. So it's like a crazy encapsulation of what Atlanta is, which is basically a city where if you have the money, you belong, right? That's always been the story of Atlanta.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So to put Lee and Callie in a part of Atlanta, which I made up, I call it Lake Point, but it's kind of like an amalgamation of Lakewood and Riverdale. But I thought, those were rough areas when I was a kid, and like real people live there. My sister has a lot of friends who live there now. And it's like, I don't want to really trash this part of town. Because it's more like, they totally, Stewart Avenue, that kind of area. They changed the name of Stewart Avenue out after before the Olympics because it had such a bad reputation. So, that's the area of town that I was thinking of.
Okay, so now the two sisters in False Witness are understandably pretty tough characters. And for large portions of False Witness, they're not very likable. I mean, we learn early on that they've perpetrated a pretty gruesome crime. And it takes a lot of book. It takes a lot of the plot until I thought to myself, okay, I get this. So what I want to ask Karin, that's a long way of asking, is how important is it to you that your protagonist right from the get-go be likable or relatable?
Well, it's not a driving point for me. I think that you should be interested in them and want to know what they're going to do next and what's going to happen to them.
Right.
I mean, that's really that's some Flannery O'Connor shit there. The mystery of character, right?
Yeah.
That's the question that pulls you through the story: is what is this person going to do? And so for me, I think you rely on that. There's a big switch in the prologue, the opening of the book that should shock people unless they know me really, really well. And, I framed it that way because I wanted you as a reader to sort of relate to this person in a way. And then when you catch up with her 20 years later, to understand how she got there. Right. I mean, that's the thing for me, especially given COVID. We're all living in trauma right now.
It's true.
And I remember we would go to like lunch or something at the Howard Johnson's with this crazy aunt of mine, like a great aunt. And she had survived the Depression. And whenever we would leave, she would put all the sweet and low in her purse and any bread on the table. Cause you know, it's like the depression really affected her even all those decades later. And I'm like, I wonder if like, when we're going to go with our great grandkids or whatever, are we going to go to the bathroom and take all the toilet paper?
Yeah.
Just hand sanitizer.
Right.
I'm going to be,
how's this going to be with us?
I'm going to be hoarding that hand sanitizer.
Someone tried to shake my hand today, and I had the most like appalling physical, like diving in the opposite direction reaction. And I was like, okay, that was like a little overblown, but I'm like, who would shake my hand?
Yeah. Cause you know where it's been. But yeah, so you know, so Lee and Callie experienced a really horrible trauma, and they had different reactions to it. One of them like went the whole type A, full on law school, always hustling. And the other one just spiraled into an addiction. And so I wanted to show, you know, we all write about kind of bad things happening to people. And, you know, usually by the end of the story, if they're not dead, they're doing okay. But I want to talk about the fact that trauma lingers. I mean, we know all kinds of scientific studies about trauma and early childhood trauma. You can have as an adult a predisposition toward depression, heart disease, diabetes, suicidal ideation, you know, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, all these things just from childhood trauma. So, you know, I wanted to explore that through these two characters.
When you're talking about that, sorry, I was just saying, when you were talking about that, Karin, it makes me think of that book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And when you're talking about your characters, like their body kept the score and then they acted out on that. I just think it's interesting. Sorry, Kathy, go ahead. Mary Kay.
No, I was just thinking that the two sisters are so, their lives are so bound together, and there's a plot twist, Karin, I did not see coming.
I love that.
I did not see coming when Lee and Walter were living in Chicago. I don't want to give away any more than that, but that totally twisted my head all the way around. So we've got some live questions. So who you guys want to ask some of the live questions people are typing in?
Absolutely. So Diana McGoldrick says, Karin, what do you do to help you when you're deep in your feelings with these tougher parts and pieces of your story?
I get on the treadmill.
Great question.
Yeah. I find the treadmill is very useful for that. And I'm like an all or none person. Like if I'm going to eat peas, I will eat peas at every meal, breakfast included, which
I'm like that too.
I had like a summer of peas where I did that. But you know, I'll get on the treadmill for an hour and a half and just like get it all out. And that's kind of a reset for me. And, you know, it also helps because I think you need a little distance as a writer because you're in control of the narrative. And I don't, you know, I didn't want to fall into like this long, dark night of staring at my navel sort of stuff. Cause the story, it's a thriller. It needs to keep moving.
Yeah.
But I certainly could have gone in that direction if I hadn't been more disciplined. And I think just, you know, having written so many books, I can realize that and stop myself when I feel it happening. And, you know, it doesn't happen with every book because sometimes the thriller part comes from whodunit, finding out, you know, that is the important part that drives the narrative. But this is a very emotionally driven book. So I had to be very careful not to just make it like an open sore kind of thing, you know, so things are happening. And, you know, the chapters move very differently too, because Lee's chapters are like going like this and Callie's are like this, you know, and that's just their personalities. But it's also a way to kind of slow it down because all the stuff that's happening, you know, you got to have a moment to digest it.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in the reader's mind that the guy on trial, whose name changes, right?
Yes.
There's no doubt that he did it.
Right. So, where does the suspense come from? And it has to come from a very emotional place. And that's one of the challenges of writing a book like this. And, I was like, Jesus, this is why Buffalo Bill had Hannibal Lecter, right? Because you have to have something driving it. So, but also, when you write about bad people and the focus is on those bad people, I think it's very important not to make them larger than life or unbelievable or, we all know a guy like the bad guys in this book, and hopefully they're out of our lives now. But we know we all have a friend who keeps dating this same guy. But so I just needed them to be really believable and anchored in reality because it was such an important story. And honestly, what terrifies me is a person who is not abnormal, who's like seemingly, can appear very normal and confront that. And deep down, they're like a horrible person. I mean, it's Ted Bundy. I mean, he was in the Young Republicans and he had a bright future, even when he got sentenced in Florida, which it makes sense, Florida, right? I'm glad Lisa didn't hear that. But the judge was like, young man, you had such a promising future. And it's such a sad thing. You could have been a very good lawyer because, of course, he represented himself. And you're thinking, Judge, this guy's a serial killer. And you think he just made some bad choices? And he could have otherwise been a really great lawyer and contributed to, I mean, come on. I'd like to see him say that to some prostitutes he sentences. Young lady, you could have been a doctor, you had so much opportunity. So, that's the kind of person I find really scary is the one who's like at your dentist office or, the coach at school or, well, I won't say priest because everybody knows what priests do, but it's just like, that's what's scary to me. And that's what I had to concentrate on. And that's where the suspense had to come from.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Do you want another live one? Sure.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay, great. So Susan God says, how does Karen's parrot respond to her book?
Wait, no, not her parrot.
Oh, her family. How did Karen's family respond to her books and their subject matter?
I want to know how her parent responds. That's a much more interesting question, to be honest. I mean,
okay, I did it on purpose. So Susan Gad wants to know how your family responds to your books and your subject matter, but I want to know how your parrot responds. So
love it. They're very supportive, but I think I've told this story too many times, but like a classic example, when I was growing up, I got in trouble at school, but not for, breaking things or fighting or not doing work, but just doing strange things. I know, Kathy, you're shocked. And I don't know if you can see my lunchbox back there, but it's got a picture. Oh, well, since I moved the parrot, I can move this. So this was like my lunchbox at school, and you can't see it very well, but it's like Marilyn Monroe after the autopsy.
Okay. There you go.
And so my dad got called to school for that, and then those baby on board stickers that were really popular. Mm-hmm. I thought it'd be really funny to put the word "dead" at the top, so it said "dead baby on board." And so then my dad got called up to school for that. And, so we're sitting in the principal's office and they're like, hey, Howard, hey, John, because they were on first name basis. And he said, this is what she did. She's got the sign in the car. And my dad said, well, is it against the school handbook? Principal said no. He said, well, is it like illegal or is there like some rule she broke? No. And my dad said, you know what? She's just weird. And she's always been weird and we love her for it. And just don't call me up for this shit anymore.
What a dad. What a dad.
And he pats me on the shoulder as he walks out. And so that's how he feels about this. He doesn't quite get it. He's not a big reader. When he was growing up, they were so dirt poor that they would have to catch squirrels to eat. So he just does not think sitting around and reading is a good use of your time. Though he weirdly talks a lot about Willie Nelson's interview in Rolling Stone about marijuana. But
he read that.
But he's super proud of me, and he's always supportive, and he says he's proud of me all the time. And my sister's the same way. So, they're very supportive. And it reminds me of, I can't remember who told me this, maybe Harlan Coben. He said, your family will buy your books, but not read it. And your friends will read your books, but not buy them.
Oh my God.
that is the biggest truism of any author's career, I think.
Oh my gosh. So true.
Yeah.
That's
so
deep.
true.
That's deep. Do we have time for one more, y'all? Now we probably need to get to Karin.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to figure it out. Okay. So I don't think we have time for any more questions, but if you feel like it, Karin, if you're not too busy, slicing and dicing innocent victims, maybe go on to the Friends in Fiction Facebook page, because lots of people have questions. I mean, I have questions. But every week, one of our favorite parts of the show is asking writers for writing advice. You know how I avoided the word tip there? So if you have a piece of writing advice.
You actually didn't avoid it in the end. No. You actually just said it.
You want just the tip, Kathy. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. The advice.
Okay. Just do it. I mean, that's the hardest part. Every single person on earth, like literally on earth, there's someone in Abu Dhabi right now who probably has a fantastic idea for a book. But the idea is not the hard part. The hard part is sitting down every day, banging it out, figuring out how to express the idea through character, through scene, through atmosphere, through setting. That's the hard part, and that's what makes you a writer. So that's just the tip.
It's a good one.
Okay, Karin and everybody else, stick around because we have one more thing to talk about and to talk to Karin about.
But first, we want to remind you all out there to check out our Friends and Fiction Writer's Block podcasts. So this show will be a podcast. All our shows are, but we also have an every Friday Writer's Block podcast. This past week, Ron, Christy Woodson Harvey, and I talked to Allison Larkin and Tracy Lang. That will pop up in 2 days about origin stories for their books. And then Ron and Mary Kay Andrews talked to Virginia Stanley. Actually, that was last week. And this week, Ron and Mary Kay talked to Virginia Stanley and Nancy Pearl about being library rock stars, because librarians are rock stars.
They are.
And Karin knows.
I have Nancy Pearl's action figure. Actually, she's fantastic.
And you know Virginia Stanley quite well too.
Absolutely. I made her make her tell you the story about the cat cafe I made her go to, where she was terrified of all the cats.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Really all right. If you are not hanging out with us yet in the Friends and Fiction official book club, you are missing out. The group, which is separate from us and is run by our friends Lisa Harrison and Brenda Gardner, is now more than 8,000 strong. They're closing in on 9,000, which is awesome. So on September 20th, I know it's incredible, and they do such a great job with it. On September 20th, Patty will be joining the group to discuss her novel, The Bookshop at Water's End. And they have so many more wonderful things in store through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And next week, join us right here at 7 p.m. to meet Megan Abbott, author of the Read with Jenna Pick, The Turnout, and Laura Lippman, author of Dream Girl. I just read both of them, and they are fantastic. Then in 2 weeks, join us as we welcome Darren Kagan and Paula Ferris. If you're ever wondering about our schedule, it's always on the Friends and Fiction website, as well as the sidebar of events on our Friends and Fiction Facebook page. And I also just wanted to tell everyone, stick around for our after show, because you might notice, everyone, we're all wearing our Friends and Fiction t-shirts. Yes. And we're going to be talking. Karin, we should have sent you one.
Mine is Eric Smith.
But we're going to be talking a little bit about how you can be our Friends and Fiction merch star of the week. So we'll tell you that in our after show.
Love it.
And
Karen, stick around. It could be you. It could be
could
you.
be. We're gonna mail you a T-shirt. It's just we are, and you can even have my pirate hat if you want it.
She's got a pirate hat.
So many good props. She doesn't need your prop. Although I do have my.
She might want my prop. She might want it.
My pirate hat comes with dreads, so
that's so much better.
Yeah. Mine does not. Mine comes with 2 red bows and some lace. So
Johnny Depp dreads, yeah.
All right, and y'all know that Kathy, Christy, and I have new books coming out this fall: The Santa Suit, Once Upon a Wardrobe, and Christmas at Peachtree Bluff. And you can be the first to read these books through our kind of amazing Winter Wonderland subscription. You receive the books just as they're released, along with loads of exclusive swag, including a video that only the people who buy the subscription can get. This package is available through our great friends at Nantucket Book Partners.
And Karin, we have one more question for you. In light of your work helping raise funds for public libraries, would you talk a little bit about why this cause is so important to you and why it should be important to every reader out there?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, as you know, I really don't like children.
I know.
I don't, they're so sticky. They're very heavy.
They lack in flavor.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some great recipes, but like their heads, they can't even what is this, baby? Come on. Learn to hold your head up. But we know a lot of things about infant brains, also tasty. And that is if you have a finite amount of time in your life when you learn language and critical processing and reading fluently. And that's in your childhood. And so if a kid doesn't get a reading ability established, they're never going to be a fluent reader. And so if you look at it just from a financial standpoint, as taxpayers, spending money on a library is one of the cheapest things you can do. Kids who read do better in school. If they do better in school, they'll go to college. If they go to college, they'll get better jobs. They'll pay higher taxes. I mean, it's that simple. Every judge I know in the juvenile justice system, every cop I know who works with juveniles says the library is the backbone of our community. And we've really seen this with COVID because, you know, our local libraries here in DeKalb and Fulton County in Atlanta, of course, they were closed because of COVID, but kids don't have computers. You know, they're doing math class on their parent's phone, and then the parent gets a call from work, math class is over. And so they invested in technology and hotspots because the internet's very expensive. The internet companies say they help poor people. They don't. It's still expensive. And so they gave hotspots, they gave tablets, they gave iPads. They made it possible for kids, especially in rural areas. You know, 85% of kids in rural areas, their only access to the internet is at their local library. So it's very important that we have these libraries. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a supporter. Also, you know, just long term, maybe these kids will one day be adults and they'll read my books.
That too.
I'm playing the long game.
It's selfish. I mean, all that money you've raised is really just hoping it'll.
Right. I know. Why don't I just buy my own books?
You know, I have a close family friend who teaches in a school in Southwest Georgia that's pretty impoverished, and those kids are driving over to fast food restaurants if their parents have a car to get Wi-Fi, so they can either watch classes or you know, do their homework online. So it's incredibly important, and I really, all joking aside, Karin, I really salute you for the work you've done with supporting public
100%.
libraries.
Well, you helped, didn't you? You and Catherine Stockett and I did a
good time.
Yeah, we had a party. We had a blast.
Yeah, we'll do that again.
Absolutely.
I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. It's time for me to say, everybody go out and buy Karin's book, False Witness, which is a truly riveting book. I read it in about 20 hours. And our bookstore of the week this week is Foxtail Bookshop. So don't forget, you can go online and order Karen's book, her backlist, and of course, all of our books at Foxtail Bookshop. And Karen, thanks for joining us. See you for lunch soon, I hope.
Yes, we'll get the ladies together.
We'll get the ladies together.
Megan Abbott is fantastic. You're going to have a great time with her.
I know. And Laura Lippman is an old friend of mine. So I think we're going to have a really good time next week, too.
Megan is one of the smartest people I know. She just knows so much about everything. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. I doubt she'll have a parrot, though.
No,
true that.
Maybe some ballet shoes, but not a parrot.
Or noses or glasses. I doubt.
And they
she'll
just
have those
kept
either.
coming. I mean, it's like, what's she going to pull out next?
Girl, you don't even know what's on my desk.
And yeah, we don't want to.
I kind of want to see a screenshot of that desk. I'm just saying.
No, you want to see my closet where I have everything labeled and stored.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Hell yeah. This gets folded up and taken care of, man. This ain't cheap. I ain't buying no $12 pirate hat.
That's awesome.
Thanks again. Thanks again, Karen.
Karen, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Karen.
Don't forget, you can order Karen's book, False Witness, at Foxtail Books, and we hope you will support our indie bookstores and, of course, your local library, because that's important too.
And we'll see you in a minute at the Story Point after show, and come back next week, same time, same place, as we welcome special guests Megan Abbott and Laura Lippman.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And please subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here. Good night.
Wow, she's great.
She's amazing.
Great. Yeah.
I'm going to have to bring out my wig now. It's very sad.
She's so smart and well spoken. I don't know. I just find her fascinating. So I'm so glad she was with us.
Oh wait,
we want to welcome
holding up our
you
Story Point bottle
to our after show sip and stay with Story Point, because maybe a good story unfolds over a glass of wine, right?
And sometimes good stories spill over onto your wig.
Sometimes you have too much Story Point before you even start the evening.
I did not have too much. I just had a lot going on my table. I had props. I had my gavel. I had my, $14. Oh, it's soggy and smells like Chardonnay. I had my wig. You want me to put it back on?
Yeah, you should put it back on.
Yeah.
You should put it back on while I talk about our merch. Can we do that?
Let's do that.
Tell us.
Okay. So while the credits were rolling, you guys, talk about a missed opportunity. We were calling it our Friends in Fiction merch star. It should have been called our Friends in Fiction Fluencer, right?
Our Friends in Fiction Fashion.
Maybe that's better.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, at any rate, whatever we call it, every week, starting next week for 4 weeks, we are going to pick someone and share their picture with their Friends in Fiction merch on the screen. So for those of you who don't know, we have these amazing t-shirts available.
Yep.
Hello, t-shirts.
Yeah.
And super cute Friends in Fiction wine sippies and coffee tumblers as well. Although we're almost out of coffee tumblers. So if you want one of those, you need to get on that. But they are available for sale from Oxford Exchange. And so just submit your picture. There's a post under announcements online where you can submit your pictures. Although people have been like emailing them to me and DMing me on Instagram. Like, I don't care how you send your picture. Just send it in.
No fun.
And we're going to pick some of you, and you're going to win a copy of either My Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, Patty's Once Upon a Wardrobe, or Mary Kay's The Santa Suit. I did not ask them before I announced that. I just went for it. So hopefully that's okay.
We're going to
fight with you.
Too. I'll throw in Forrest.
Kristen's
We're
going to throw in
not going to
Forrest.
fight with you. You're running contests. We're not ever going to. fight with
I was
somebody
like,
who's
I'm
doing
just going to make some decisions and not ask anyone. Then they don't have to
Yeah.
think about it or worry about it. We don't have to talk
we
about it.
appreciate that.
Could you just make all the decisions from now on? Can
I
we
was
just do
hoping
that?
that you could, because you always make really good ones, and then we'll just be like, yes, great idea.
Maybe you could make decisions on the cover for next summer's book, because we're at that point and I'm kind of out of thoughts.
I'll send some suggestions.
I was going to say, I think that's pretty much a group decision. So
exactly, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
I don't think we get to hand that over to Christy. I think that's more of a
group.
Okay, my publisher will be interested in hearing your feedback.
Okay,
I'm sure.
I'm sure they're waiting. I'm sure they're waiting.
Really waiting with bated breath.
Bated breath. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting tonight when Karin talked about how hard it was for her to finish that book.
Yeah.
And
and how emotionally involved she gets. We think of all these grisly murder mystery type things as maybe it's just plot driven, but she really gets into the deeper aspects of of trauma and their lives. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, and she does a lot of pretty nitty gritty research. She's tight with some Georgia Bureau of Investigation agents. Yeah. I know we didn't have time to ask this question, but a lot of false witness parts of it are very much a courtroom thriller. Yeah. And so I was researching, and she talked about one of her good friends. We're all friends with people in our writer communities. Mm-hmm. And she's friends with Alifair Burke, who writes legal thrillers, and of course is James Lee Burke's daughter, but she's a great writer on her own. And she's a former prosecutor and went to law school at Stanford, I think. And so she talked about, in another interview, she talked about Alifair kind of telling her how to do the legal research in this book, because in False Witness, Lee, the protagonist, who is a really kick-ass lawyer at a white shoe law firm, she gets basically kind of blackmailed into defending this scumbag rapist. And then of course it turns out there's a connection. And so she has to do her job, ethically her job as a lawyer, defending someone who's really indefensible. But at the same time, she's got this really deep trauma suffered at the hands of this person.
Wow.
So
that's powerful.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And talk about an impossible choice,
Yeah.
We all do a lot of research, and some of that research, is tougher than others.
Yep. True.
But I also think it's fascinating, because we've talked about it so many times on the show with so many authors, how during COVID, it was easier for some people to write their books and harder for others. And just because you're granted a large swath of time doesn't mean that everything got easier.
Right. No, it didn't.
I mean, it still feels a little bit like that now, like this kind of unsteady tremor beneath everything. And to remember that everybody's feeling it.
I feel very unsettled.
I was thinking earlier today how like every tiny insignificant thing just becomes this whole ordeal, because you're like, should I do it? Should I not? Is it worth it? Is it not?
Exhausting.
Do we go? Do we not? I mean, it's just like things that are just so ridiculous. And it's just, we all have to have such extreme decision fatigue, because it's just like everything.
I know.
It's like, should we go out to lunch? Well, I mean, we're probably okay, but it is one more exposure that, I mean, it's everything. A sandwich.
Everything's a little bit more exhausting. Everything's a little bit. Yep. And when she was talking about that, everybody's in trauma. I was thinking while she was saying it, that it's good to remember that, like everybody's an inch away. All of us.
I was listening to a podcast about that last night, and how it was really, really interesting about, how this time has brought up like every single thing from our past, and we don't even realize it.
Yep.
That it's, any other time we've been afraid before, any other time we've had to face something difficult before. It's like all these things because we've never lived through this. So it's like our subconscious is pulling back. It's pulling on every single horrible thing we've ever experienced in our lives for a frame of reference. Because
that's what that book is about, that the body keeps the score.
Yeah.
And he has a really good podcast out right now with the New York Times with Ezra somebody. And that's exactly what it's about, Christy, it's not what's happening right now. It's pinging everything that happened before.
Well, and it's also that reminder that as much control as we think we have over our lives, we have none. And as secure as we think things are in our lives, anything could happen at any moment. I mean, I think that to me is the scariest part of this time. It's just that realization that we all know in the back of our minds, but that realization being kind of driven home again and again.
Yeah. Because that's the thing we have to forget to be able to really live, right? We have to be able to forget.
Get to the page every day.
Yeah.
Right?
We have to be able to forget
the one thing we can control.
Can ever happen at any time. Like we have to kind of be able to forget that to be able to like live our lives, but it's like in our face every second. That's like,
and I feel like when I was writing The Newcomer last year, I feel like I wrote most of that book sitting up in bed, starting at 7 a.m. And just for the first time, I'm not joking when I say there was nothing else to do or nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And I just put my head down, and every morning at 7 a.m. or sometimes earlier, I was writing, and maybe that was my escape from the reality that was surrounding me, because I was in my half dark bedroom in my PJs.
Yep.
And my only reality was the reality of that world, that fictional world I created. I was, most years I go away to write, to put myself in that world. But last year I put myself in that world, that darkened room. That was my bubble. And, but I wasn't writing a legal thriller with a lot of pretty traumatic detail in it.
Yeah, but this must have been a tough year to go that dark. I mean, I know a lot of her work is dark, but I mean that really, I think, required a deep emotional dig. Which this was a tough year to do that. It really was, because our emotions were already on the surface in a way that was difficult to deal with. So
no, I've said over and over, Once Upon a Wardrobe was my touch point every day. It's like the opposite of grisly murder, right? It's but it was while everything else was burning and going crazy, that I could return to that again.
And I mean, and I will always remember that. I mean, we kind of joke about it, but really and truly, I wrote the entire wedding veil at 7 a.m. in my bed. And if it hadn't been for you guys, like, I don't know that would have happened, because I was homeschooling. I mean, I'm not like everyone was, Kristen was, we all were, but I'm just saying it was that time of like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. When if I hadn't done that, there would have been a million excuses,
of course,
to not write that book. And I know
those excuses. I'm making them now. So
I'm making them right now. Yeah.
Well, we all do. I'm like, we all do that. But it was really, I think, during a time when everything was just so insane. Like it just made it that go-to point where we were all like, we weren't together, but we were together every morning, and we were all doing it. And there was something really kind of special about that I think made it really just work.
Yeah.
We should have texted her at 7 a.m.
Exactly.
I shudder to think what she would have texted.
I know, right? I know.
I think, the great thing, what I love about this show is when we talk to different authors, we're so fortunate, I think, so blessed to be able to see how thoughtful and how intentional writers are.
These writers are.
With their stories that they put out into the world. And
all the back work. I think people don't always know whether it's her interviewing the GBI or you doing your, I think people are now a little more aware of
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the word intention you use, but the story behind the story and how much work goes into it. It's not just the typing, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. True.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter, of course, where people get really irate, and they were criticizing a New York Times story, and they said that's not reporting, that's stenography.
I like that. I wish it was that easy, right? If it were that easy.
Yeah, only somebody who's never had to report on a breaking story could call it stenography, but that's a different story for a different night. Okay, my husband is cooking me something delicious and I can smell it. And I'm
all right, lucky you.
Are you sure that's not just the wig, the nearby wig?
I'm gonna squeeze the wine. Wring it out. Bring the wine out.
Please don't be that desperate.
Last sip of story point. Cheers, ladies.
Story point.
Story point. I just finished mine while we were talking, but to story point. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to text everybody at 7 a.m. to see if you're writing. All right.
Okay, do it. All right,
Bye.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Night. Night. Thanks, Ellen.